after Representative Greene was unsuccessful in shutting down the House to stop the Equality Act from being passed, there was a bit of a back and forth between Representative Greene and Representative Marjorie Newman, who you should know that for the purposes of the story has a transgender daughter. So Marjorie Newman tweeted, "Our neighbor, Representative Greene, tried to block the Equality Act because she believes prohibiting discrimination against trans Americans is disgusting, immoral, and evil." So she did this, which you'll see in this video. So there you saw her putting the transgender flag up, and in response to that, Representative Greene said, all of this is just copying what Marjorie Newman did. But anyway, our neighbor, Marjorie Newman, wants to pass the so-called Equality Act to destroy women's rights and religious freedoms. So then she did this. Okay, so you can see that it's a sign that says there are two genders, male and female, trust the science. And you know she trusts the science when she puts that in quotation marks. Even she seems to get that she doesn't mean what she's saying. So anyway, we got more on this. Rashad, what do you think?
All right, first of all, every time these cats talk about religious freedom and that there's an assault on religious freedom, why is it that 100% of these religious freedom conversations, they only give you the freedom to discriminate against somebody else? Yeah. Why isn't it that we have religious expression or religious freedom bills that actually build coalition, that actually unite people, that create a more holistic atmosphere of love? No, that's not what their religious liberty or their religious freedom actually does. Well, let's go beyond that, because she's making this a Christian versus non-Christian, an evil versus good scenario. So let's talk about that. I'm ready to get into it. Here's the reality. If this was such an important idea of the Christian philosophy, I'm a Christian man myself. Give me the percentage of how much Jesus spent his time talking about transgender people. Zero. That's how important he thought it was. 0% of his ministry was about transgender people. He talked about how you treat the poor. He talked about taking care of children. He talked about government corruption like you are, Ms. Greene. He talked about you, but he didn't talk about trans people. And I wonder why. Could it be because Jesus himself did not feel as you feel, that your representation of the Christian right is simply a political movement to the far white extremist reality rather than toward a brown Messiah?
Yeah, look, so I'm an atheist. Although, like left Christians, I love. My grandfather was a progressive Christian, one of my favorite people in the whole world. For non-progressive Christians, though, the idea that like you have a book that was written by the creator of the universe and you don't give a damn what it says, that seems like a big, I wish I had that book. I wish I did. I would read it if it existed.
Right, isn't
but
it?
She doesn't care about that. You think Marjorie Greene's reading the Bible? Come on.
That's the great exposure. The great exposure of the Christian evangelical movement has been this, that the movement was more so a political movement than a religious reformation. Because the question had to be posed, how can you be an expression of Christianity and simply ignore the anti-Christian sentiment of Donald J. Trump and others? Well, the only reason and the only way you can do that is by saying internally somewhere, you really don't believe anything that book says.
Yeah, totally. And look, so we're focused on religion here. We should, because Marjorie Greene and others, they might try to co-opt some of the language of rights, talking about women's rights or pretending they care about women's sports. I've always felt like if you care about women's sports, you probably do more good for women's sports by buying tickets rather than talking constantly about transgender women competing in it.
Come on now.
But anyway, no, that's just a smokescreen. She doesn't care about that. If that's what she cares about, why is she tweeting God created only two genders? First of all,
which
gender is a social construct. God didn't create any genders, we created genders. God created sexes, but even that isn't as simplistic scientifically as they think it is in terms of chromosomes and everything. But then she's talking about, she's got another tweet about the Equality Act protecting pedophiles, because of course in her mind, anyone who doesn't share her same sexual morality is probably a pedophile. Although, for a bit of homework for you, do a little bit of Googling about her personal sexual morality. It's a little bit outside of the Christian norm, just allegations.
Hey, wait a minute, no, listen, let's talk about that because she was getting it in, according to the reports.
Which is totally fine from my point of view, I'm sure from your point of view.
Right, but don't besmirch others for getting it in too. That's what I'm saying. Like she was living a life, she was living her best life at the gym. And obviously they had a no mask policy.
That's true. I miss the gym. So God created only 2 genders. We don't yet know exactly how many types of tantric yoga masters God created. But anyway, and then she said that the bill was an attack on God's creation. So we say this just to point out that they might attempt to occasionally co-opt our language by talking about women's rights or saying trust the science, but they don't care about that. This is just old school religious bigotry. That's all it is. It is conservative Christian bigotry, and that's it. And thankfully, at least they don't have the majority in the House anymore. So hopefully this will be able to pass later today.
Yeah, and it should. I don't think they will have any issues with this. I do think they face some challenges in the Senate, but I still think that the Senate will be able to pass it as well. Myself and a few others, we are following this closely. Yeah, I do think it will pass. I've been back and forth with Senator John Ossoff about this and a couple other people that work around the Capitol. But we're thinking that maybe it's going to be slim, but we may be able to get this passed through the Senate as well.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. I'm gonna be watching too. If not, we're thinking here at TDR about developing a tracking list, a whiteboard or something like that, of all the things that we now will have a Democratic majority in the House that'll pass that might die in the Senate because of the filibuster. Because I want to start to accrue a list of things that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema value the filibuster more than. So, there's a lot of things on that list already, but perhaps the Equality Act can go on that list. We'll see. Maybe enough Republicans will switch over that they'll save Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin that. But anyway, we will be watching.
Yeah, we'll see. They got to do some horse trading. And that's one of the unfortunate realities of politics still in America, is that a lot of deals are made without the transparency of the American public. And in order to get a legislation like this passed, Democrats will have to do some horse trading. We don't know exactly what horses they are trading. But if it gets passed, believe me, there has been a compromise somewhere. And I guarantee you, we would not like the compromise because we're more idealistic in our political view. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see. Yeah, in this particular area, I don't like any of the potential horses that might be traded, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe we didn't make this explicit enough. Maybe it was obvious. I don't know. But so they both, Marie Newman and Marjorie Greene, both put things up in the hallway. One put up a flag showing solidarity for the transgender community. The other put up a sign saying that it's not a thing. These people do not exist. You are either a man or a woman, and I will say what you are, across the hallway of the office of a woman with a transgender daughter. Like, think about, we can disagree about the policy or whatever, but Marjorie Greene isn't just a Christian in her mind, she's a good Christian. And that makes you a good person. This is what a good person does?
Yeah.
Tries to harass a coworker about the identity of their child. What a
just think
sick
about this
thing.
John, think about it, right? If this person worked at, I don't know, Office Depot, right? She would be one, fired, noted as a horrible person, not just a horrible worker, but a horrible individual. She could possibly be charged with, or at least accused of, workplace harassment, workplace intimidation. But the way our country is set up, she can be a United States congressperson, do all of those things that will get her fired from Office Depot, and still be celebrated by a large section of these yet to be United States of America. But that showed you where our political narrative and political reality rest. she is still considered mainstream in the Republican Party.
Yeah. What is she gonna raise $50,000 off of this? $100,000 off of this?
Yep.
But as you say, yeah, you would get fired from Office Depot. I think you'd probably be okay at Home Depot based on their owner, but Office Depot, you're screwed. Don't try to do that.
Yeah, you'll be okay. Yeah, you'll definitely be okay at Home Depot.
Everyone, go to Lowe's. Although I don't know, their owner's probably terrible too. I don't know. They have a good YouTube channel. I'm getting really into DIY stuff. I don't know, but Home Depot's YouTube game is not as strong as Lowe's. That's all I'm saying. Watch The Weekender.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.